Good morning, Days with Jordan the Lion, coming at you old school. Yep, sometimes you just don't know what to wear. I looked over and I saw the PF Flyers and I thought, that's what I'm gonna wear. One of my favorite things about the PF Flyers is I love their little like crazy logo. See that? And I like the backs. I don't know, call me crazy. Well, we're up and at it early. Wanted to get going early today because somebody on my YouTube requested for me to do Reservoir Dogs locations. And you know what? I love Reservoir Dogs. I have a couple of cool stories about Reservoir Dogs. And got me thinking, yeah, maybe I'll just go do that for you today. One of the places closes at 2:30. Granted, it's 8 a.m. But I want to get in there and get going early today. I'm not going to hit every location, obviously, but I'm going to hit some of my favorites. So I'll probably hit 3 or 4 of them. Let's go. Well, we're out here to start out the Reservoir Dogs filming location. I just looked at up this street in the neighborhood and look how cool these houses are. Isn't that awesome? And then these people, I have to assume, are going to Let's Make a Deal. They're hopping on the train here. So first location, here we come. Check that out. It's a Space Invader. Space Invader's been here. Well, this right here isn't much of a location anymore. But what this used to be, this was the warehouse. This was a warehouse where everybody met up in Reservoir Dogs, where Michael Madsen, Mr. Blonde, cuts the officer's ear off and burns him with gasoline. The doors and everything would have been right here. And then he would have walked out here and his car actually would have been parked in here. His car would have been parked. The layout of this would have been a little different back then. But he basically would have been parked right about right here. And then he pops the trunk open and sees the officer laying in the back. Originally this was a mortuary. That's why that ramp was in there and all the embalming fluid and everything in the movie. That the business was actually a mortuary that they were filming in. And it was right here. Right here is the warehouse. Now, this doubles in the film industry what they call cheated. They cheated on this one. And what they did was the upstairs of the warehouse was actually Mr. Orange's apartment. When you see that scene where he's in his apartment, it was actually right upstairs. So they actually got 2 locations out of one building. Now I'm going to walk just a few blocks away and I'm going to go to where the shootout was that Mr. Orange gets shot. And they shoot the lady in the car. The alleyway's right there, and then we make the right, and that's where they would have encountered her car right there by the train tracks. So that's our next stop. Just walking over to as many locations as I actually can because, much like in many movies that you don't know about, a lot of the movie will take place just on like one block. And they'll just do stuff across the street from another, and kind of what, like I said, they cheat stuff. So we're gonna walk over there now. Oh cool, I knew we were in the neighborhood. I just didn't know exactly how close, but where that says Mr. T's over there, there's a little staircase that goes down. It's called Mr. T's Bowl. I think it's a bowling alley again, but when I moved out here, that was the place to play for an indie band. I played there, I can't even begin to count how many times. It's actually it was my favorite venue to play in Los Angeles, but at one time it had been a bowling alley, and then they had kept some of the lanes but just kind of demolished some of the others and they turned it into a music venue. And then I quit going for a long time when I wasn't playing music, and I looked online and now they've restored it back to a bowling alley again. So I'm gonna have to go check that out, maybe vlog that soon. Oh yeah, oh yeah. I can already tell that I'm at that location. I'm not where I want to start, but fans of the movie, you'll recognize this spot. This is where Mr. Brown, Quentin Tarantino, dies. And right here. Background's changed quite a bit, but this is exactly where it would have been. This shot right here. And then if you turn it around, down that alley is where Mr. White and Mr. Orange walk right before the shooting. Now after Mr. Brown dies, Mr. Orange and Mr. White would have walked right down through here, and I'll post that photo with their guns dangling. And then they would have flipped around here, and that's where the red car with the white canopy top would have been, right in front of this house that they end up having the shootout with. It would have been parked right here. And her point of view would have been about right here, because when you see through her windshield, you can actually see that building over there off to the side. So right there is a pretty pivotal, interesting scene in the movie. And of course, like I said, she would have been parked right kind of in front of this house because you can see this house. Even though I know it's such a memorable shot from the movie, the shot where the whole crew is kind of like the opening sequence where the whole crew is walking along that brick wall. It's actually over by a bowling alley called All-Star Lanes, but from everything that I'm reading online, it's completely unrecognizable. They don't even have that brick facade for us to walk past, so I don't know that it's even worth going. Where I am gonna go is a diner called Pat Lorraine's, and Pat Lorraine's is where the actual opening scene where they're all talking about Madonna's Like a Virgin, and where they're talking about the tipping, that's where that all took place. And I'm gonna go and have a cup of coffee there. Now we are on our way to our next location, and where I'm going now is where Mr. Pink gets chased through the sidewalk. That's coming up here. It's not too far. It's off on York Boulevard. Somebody went and shot an arrow into that chair. Now right here is where the Ace Hardware would have been. Steve Buscemi, Mr. Pink, would have been running down this street to get away. And then he would have ran across this crosswalk right here. But you can tell because that red zone right there was still there, that tree was there, and all the glass storefronts were right there. It's changed quite a bit, but that's exactly where Mr. Pink would have been running. Well, here we are at the All-Star Lanes, and I know this isn't ideal, but it's a closed bowling alley. It's never open anymore, it's done. So this is the best we're gonna get, okay? That wall right over here, that originally would have been brick, and they've redone that since. And that's where the group would have been walking after eating. That actually, they've remodeled it quite a bit. You can't even tell what it is. But that's where they would have been walking past. And now, if you can imagine being inside here and flipping the camera around, that's actually where the whole group walked out of, and they cheated that to be the parking lot of where we're gonna get ready to go to next, the cafe that they all eat at. You can actually match up this in the background. That thing right here that I'm circling, that's in the shot, and you'll actually be able to see the whole group would be kind of right over here. But we would be inside the parking lot of this. You'd actually be inside of here. So they would have been walking towards me outside of here for that shot. So this is about the best proof I'm going to be able to get you to show you that this is where they all kind of were marching. Behind it, if you see the buildings in the background, you can kind of match up the windows with what was behind them. And here's a back shot of the bowling alley, and so you can tell they've put marble all the way around the front of it and everything, but it is brick, and they've clearly painted it, but that's the style of brick the guys would have been walking beside. Well, we've kind of come to a head. This is Pat Lorraine's coffee shop. I saved this for last because, well, this is my favorite place. I mean, I've never been here, but this is one of my favorite scenes in the movie, if not my favorite scene. And it's definitely my favorite thing that we're gonna see today. So we're gonna go in here and eat. Well, get some coffee at least. This is where the group had their meeting to start the movie. Now, this is right here is pretty much where the group would have sat, because you can see the archway's the same, the doorway, and the whole group would have been right here. Pretty much where I'm sitting is where Mr. Blonde or Chris Penn, Cabot Boy, where they would have been sitting. Yep, I'm sitting pretty much right where Michael Madsen would have been sitting. Yeah, they would have been sitting at a table pretty much right here. And you can see all that in the background right behind Mr. White, Harvey Keitel. This is definitely the place. I wasn't hungry, but I couldn't come here and not have coffee after seeing that movie. I watched it again last night, so I'd kind of be a little bit more familiar with what I was doing here today, and just watching them drinking coffee, arguing about tips, I had to have some. If you look up here, they actually have a still from the movie. And I'll put the same picture in mine. Looks like they removed where that center pole is in the movie, and now they have kind of a pie case. Just so you know, this is what the actual parking lot of the place that they ate at looks like. Just so you understand what I mean by them cheating shots. Yeah, that's the real parking lot of where they would have been eating. Well, that's the end of our Reservoir Dogs vlog. I mean, I hit pretty much everything. The only place that I could really think of that I didn't hit was Johnny's Coffee Shop, which is where Mr. Orange gets hired. But I'm going to save that for when I do The Big Lebowski, because one of my favorite scenes in The Big Lebowski was in there. And we'll do that one coming up too. Most of the places The Big Lebowski was filmed at and the locations are all been demolished or changed or whatever, but we'll still do it. So I hope you guys enjoyed Reservoir Dogs, and I'm going to go back in and have another cup of coffee. And after a hard day of vlogging, I came home to this. That's what I come home to every day. Well, in a true rarity, I decided to bring John to the dog park in the afternoon. Felt guilty that I went off vlogging. Actually left the house early today, like 9:30, to go do all this stuff, so he's been just hanging out at home. Decided to bring him out here, and I figured I'll end the vlog here. See, there are two things that I wanted to make sure that I included in this, and both of them are about the special features from Reservoir Dogs. One, maybe the funniest story I've ever heard, ever. Go on YouTube. I know it's on the special features for the box set that I have of Reservoir Dogs, but go on YouTube and look up Chris Penn story about Lawrence Tierney. Keep looking, you'll find it. He tells a story about how Lawrence Tierney comes to a barbecue at his house, and it's one of the funniest stories you'll ever hear in your life. Make sure you watch that. And then also on the special features, of Reservoir Dogs, there's a part with Eddie Bunker, who plays Mr. Blue, where he's driving around a car and he points to my apartment building and says that he used to live there. So another one of those cross-intersecting odd pieces of history that Eddie Bunker lived in my building. Mr. Blue. Vlog over.